Master Rats. I'm here at chess.com. I'm covering a simultaneous given today by Ignition on board. He's a national master. I think there's one game going. He's playing a time limit of 60-60. That means 60 minutes plus a 60-second increment every move. I think about 8 or 9 games going, and I wasn't able to cover the whole thing, but I'd accidentally closed this window, but I loaded it up. I'll give a commentary on every game. I thought this would be kind of interesting. Oh, somebody's playing. This is a line I play, the Fred. Very risky gambit. If you're prepared with black and white's not, you catch white sleeping, white can be in serious trouble. But anyway, white's handling it fine so far. Now, normally the correct move in this position is Queen D6. And it's a whole nother tangent as to what happens next. But so far, White's probably playing the sharpest line against it. I think it's a mistake to bring the bishop back. And now this knight has a permanent outpost on e5. Let's see how it continues. White castles. Now he comes up with Queen d6. Okay, rook e1. Now notice that black can't castle long here because of knight f7, and that's going to be a major pain here. If you're playing black here, you need to get the bishop to g7 and just hold on. That's all you can do here. Okay, so knight e4, and that just sends the knight back. So I talk to students sometimes when you make a move like this. You see, it was black's to move in this position. And essentially what black is saying, I'll tell you what, it's my move, but I'm going to give you 2 moves as long as one of them is f3. And that's usually an offer that white can't refuse. And that's in effect what happens. Now it's white's move, and this is what white improves on. And let's just compare the 2 positions. Let's go back to white's 9th move when it was black's move. Watch how black's position does not change. See? And now let's go forward. See, white got 2 pawn moves in. Okay, now rook g8. This doesn't help get white castle to kingside. G6 was the move. White's starting to pick up an advantage here. Now the queen's kind of limited to where she can go. E6 is just going to run into some discoveries. D8, sending another piece home. Okay, now what kind of discovery does white have? Knight G6 worth anything? Knight here. And then try to redeploy the knight. No, I don't know. See what white comes up with. Okay, queen d3 with potential pressure on h7, which has been weakened by the rook moving over. Okay, now he castles. He's able to castle finally. But does white yet have a discovery? Well, not yet. The rook's not guarded. White needs to develop his knight, and he does. Okay. Now here remains the problem for black. This bishop is not in play. Black only has one weakness, this backward pawn on e7. But this pawn is hanging. Does white grab it? Yes, he does. Okay, so white's a pawn ahead. And it's unfortunate to have to give up a pawn to try to get your development going. But anyway, knight g4. Now, did black have to give up the queen for the rook here? No, he could play queen g6. Trades queens and white remains a clear pawn up and going to win another one. I don't think he had to give up the queen, though, for the rook. This is just saying, you've got me. Now, this leads to trouble because the knight's now guarding the rook, but the knight can be taken off the board, and that's what happens. Okay, tempo on the queen. But the queen does a tempo move with check, and now the knight escapes. And suddenly white is ahead, a queen? A queen and a knight for the rook, right? White has an extra piece, minor piece. Black has an extra rook, so it's just a decisive advantage for white. And now does he have to give up the queen like that? What am I missing? Oh, he's got a lot of pressure on f8. It's just liquidation. He wins. It just clarifies the advantage. Now white is ahead 2 pieces. Okay, so then more pieces are coming off the board. And there goes a pawn. And might as well get the passed pawns running. Now the threat is g4 and h5, and that pawn's going to get to h6 pretty easily. And at this point, black just chose to resign. Okay, so let's get back into the simul. You can hear the clicking in the background. There is at least one game going. Let's look at this game versus Looney Guy, 1377. Looks like black took his time. White didn't. So White had some time to move, but it's good. It's good. I mean, extra time available. It's good that the players are taking their time because you want to take your time. Now we're in a rear Lopez. It's usually premature to bring the pawn up to b5, but this line is playable. And black is opting for quick development. He's got all 4 minor pieces out, and he's castled, so black's doing okay here. But white gets a tempo on the bishop, and now a tempo on the pawn, on the knight. And there's the tempo back on the bishop. The bishop retreats. So white's got a little bit of a space advantage, but black's got development. Can white play h3, maybe double up the black pawns? We'll find out. He does. Now, I don't think this sacrifice that black makes is correct. Although white would be for choice if he played the knight to h6. King takes. You only have a piece for the pawn, and it's hard to see exactly how this knight gets right into place so you can use this bishop. Key squares here that the queen might want to go to are covered. I think white has a clear advantage now. White just gets his development caught up. Gets the king nicely off to safety. Well, notice black has shut in his bishop too. It's basically a white game here. Now suddenly white has possibilities here. Okay. Pressuring b2. Just play b3. Oh no, this is fine. Check. Go ahead and take the pawn. Black's gonna be subjected to a very loose king here in a moment. Okay, so f5, which gives, first thing it does is it gives white an immediate protected passed pawn, but I don't know, I think you take en passant here and open up the black king. That's what he does. Now if he takes with the pawn, queen g6 check could come, the queen g7, but no, just bishop takes h6 first, and white's doing fine. Does black need to take here first? Probably does. But then white can always throw his wishes again. And it's looking pretty good for white. See what happens. He does take here. Now bishop takes h6, f5, and now b3. Could have played that earlier, but this is fine. And white's just a piece up and white's the one with the attack. Here comes the knight into a great square. Now save the bishop. Well, you don't need to right yet. There's a check. Okay, that's good. Now, you can check on g6 with the knight. Does that go anywhere? King g8, you get discoveries. He does. Where do you want to discover? f4, because e5 doesn't do any good. You came from there. Oh, we're going to check here. Very interesting. Cutting off the line of communication of the rook. Black can't take either way because the queen on g3 is checking. So he goes back, and now he wins the queen. Very nice. Okay, rook g8. So I guess the lesson here is that you want to attack with a sacrifice, but you got to make sure you don't get attacked back. And white's the one that got the attack here. It was very nicely played. Ignition on board, by the way, he is available for chess lessons. You can contact him through his profile. I'm sure he does a great job. He's a national master. He understands chess, and I recommend him. Okay, so now rook takes d4, and black decides to capitulate. Unfortunately, he's down a bishop, knight, and a queen, and there's really no hope here. Okay, I'm going to close this one down. See what else we have here. Next game is one he's going to lose. Now I know that MF Capello's got a very high online correspondence rating, so we'll treat his correspondent, his over the board is underrated. His standard rating, rather. So we're in the close Sicilian. I guess they call this the Grand Prix attack. Bishop d3, odd move, but normally you would think it would come to c4. But I don't know the theory on this, so we'll assume that the NM knows what he's doing. Now white can't castle. How do you get this bishop into play? Okay, we're going to go back and get a check since that knight's no longer in d4. Now I'd play d3. There's no need to develop the black queen. Okay, queen f3, that develops something. That's fine. Okay, now I would be tempted just to put this bishop on e2 since I've got the queen out. That's what I would probably do, but he comes up with a very interesting move here. What am I missing? Oh no, I was reading bishop takes f7 check. The bishop's not even on c4. I'm looking at the score sheet. This develops the black queen. That's the one drawback with when you trade pieces. You don't want to improve the position of your opponent's pieces. Let them develop their pieces on their own. And white still can't castle kingside. So knight d5. Maybe he's planning to put it on e3 so he can castle, slide the king to h1, and eventually play f5 and have the knight being ready to come into play. We'll see what happens. He's also threatening a fork. So black retreats the queen. Okay, so trading off the queen didn't really matter. I mean, trading off the bishop, it did develop the black queen, but it just went back home. Okay, so now c3, chase the bishop out. Okay, that's good. Now he can castle, and he does. And now the knight comes back to e3, supporting an f5 break. I'm liking white here. Okay, is e5 wrong? The first reason I don't like it, and not saying it's a bad move, is because it goes on the color of this bishop here. So the more pawns you put on dark squares, the less mobility you have. The other thing I don't like about it is white's development isn't complete. Neither is black, so why don't I just play d3, bishop d2, and maybe swing the rook over. Now black gets 3 moves too. Black could castle. He might play b5, he might play queen b6, try to get redeployed, and then go for your f5 break, because that'll increase the scope of the bishop. Sounds like maybe the last game had a draw for her, that little tick. Well, we'll find out when we get there. But we'll go with e5 because that's what he played, and now there's pressure on e5. White wins a pawn, but just for a moment. Now the sting of his f5 is gone. Now, I think that pawn on d6 is probably doomed, but we shall see. Maybe it isn't. Oh, look, another pawn. Okay, so white's doing this well. I mean, I was disagreeing with what he's doing, but he's coming out of this okay. Now look at black's time. I just noticed this. He didn't use his time in this game, and the game goes 55 moves. Woo. You should have close to 0 here on your time. You're playing too quick. The master has to play quick. He's playing a lot of games, but now the queen comes off. Now the d6 pawn seems to be doomed, and we have this problem here. These guys aren't in the game yet, but white's okay here. Now pressure to hold the d pawn back. Maybe plant this rook here. Sink this pawn in. Can the knight figure out a way to get to d3? Black would be crushing if he can do that. Okay, so white opts to try to develop the bishop, but you got to cover d2 before you do that. But black's looking good here. And there's the rook on d3. Now I guess white's planning to move the knight and evict that rook from d3. He doesn't quite yet. Now he doesn't need to move the knight because black's evicted it himself. You need to cover d2 so you can develop this bishop. There, that covers it. And if black takes, white gets some double pawns, but he gets an open file. He doesn't take. You need to play. Does he need to play d? No, he can't play d3. That's going to hang c3. See what happens. Okay, finally got the bishop out. Now, can white just grab that pawn? What am I missing? He did. He took it. And now put the bishop on e3. And it's starting to smell like there's a combination for black in here. Just because if you look at the black position, notice how all black's pieces are pressuring white's position in some way. It's just starting to look like there's going to be a combination here. Maybe a bishop takes here, followed by knight takes. He goes down there and attacks. And now black gives up the exchange. Rook takes, rook takes. Okay, now where does the king go? He comes up to f3, now f5, anchoring the knight in. Okay, so interesting exchange sacrifice by black. The rook's got a lot of pressure on the 7th rank. This rook is kind of useless. This rook is in the right side of the board to help support a pawn advance, maybe. As long as white doesn't get mated here, white might be okay. Let's see. So white opts to give back a pawn to try to free his position and figure out maybe win the exchange up. Okay, good decision. Well, he can't take on d4. I was thinking black could take on d4. But his rook is active. He's going to take pawns. So white's up the exchange, but what can he do with it? I think black's got compensation for it, but I don't think black's winning, and yet black is going to win this game. Gave up a pawn, that cleared d4. So now the king needs to penetrate. King to d4, get that king active. But here's a problem here. You're going to lose some more pawns. White's running out of pawns. Okay, there's a fork. I missed that. So did the master. Let's see. Yeah, maybe I have to play rook d1 here, but anyway, let's see what happens. Like, he has a pin. Okay, but there's a discovered check here. See, there it is. And now suddenly black's in firm control of a rook and pawn ending. So white sends his king into action, trying for mate or maybe a draw. So now white's threatening mate on the move. Well, mate in 2 moves. The rook gets to throw itself in the middle. And I actually had a game once where I drew a game, like for instance, if h5, you can check on b8. The king comes up to h7. You check on b7. He hides on h6, and you just park the rook on b8, threatening a mate, and black has to come back and get a draw. But black doesn't bite. So now the question is, does white have enough compensation here with for the pawns? He's got an active rook. White could be 1 pawn down and probably holding a draw, but 2 pawns is a little trickier. So white opts to try to win one back. I'm thinking rook b7. Well, rook b7, black's just going to play rook a8 and threaten to run this pawn. It's unfortunate. White's trying to hold, got chances to, but yeah, see, there's rook a, there's that move. And there goes the pawn, and the pawn's going to make it as far as the 6th rank, and he has to block it. But white does have a very active king, and now that king just got cut off. So white's going to run out of pawn moves in a minute, and black starts making progress with his king. Now black has rook moves. He can play rook a6. That will force the king over this way, which lets this king come in the game. And that's what he plays, rook a6. Now the king's getting in the game, so he goes after the rook and plays to restrict the black king, go after the rook. Now here white plays h4. That might be premature. But how do you make progress here? The classic game is the last game of the match between Alyekin and Capablanca, the one that ended the match. Alyekin went into a rook and pawn, ending a pawn up with his rook behind the pawn, playing white, by the way. And what Kappa did was Kappa got his king to be the blockader of the pawn to free the rook. And even though he got his rook free, Alyekin's king just penetrated right into his pawn position and ate him alive. So probably theoretically black is winning this. But I think if white's going to hold on, I don't think he should weaken his pawn structure. Okay. See, now there's the reason why. It's weak. Okay. So let's see. I when I'm going on the boards that they played on, I can't really analyze the position. But see, now the black king's coming in, and it's just a matter of time, I think, before white runs out of pawns here. Oh, you see, here comes the king to penetrate. Yeah, at this point he gave up. So maybe I can go back here. We'll look at one line, because I think h4 was wrong, but it may be that it's losing anyways. Let's see, h6. Let's go to that position. White played h4. Let's, for the fun of it, go attack the rook. Now the rook can go all the way back, but then white just brings his king back. Okay. If the rook comes over this way, you take the pawn, he comes down to the 7th, then you can play h4, and you've got this pawn covered. So I think this is the correct move. Let's see, look what I did. Put a queen on a8. Well, I guess I'm not going to be able to analyze this game out, but that's the basic idea. Okay, so we're going to close the game with MF Capello. Good game, Mr. C. Thanks for playing him. Now, let's see. Here we have... Okay. Wow, he really used his time here. Let's go back to the beginning here. Where's the white e-pawn? Oh, this chess.com. Look at that. Where did it come from? Now it's on the board. Okay, e4. Normally, the Simul giver plays white. Sometimes things happen. You end up playing black. It's happened to me before, too. Oh, we're the Joko piano, main line. Knight c3 is the molar attack. There is another game with the molar attack in. This is the slower line. Now it's important to play d5 first. And now it's let's see, knight takes d5. I know there's one trick where white can misplay this if he I'm trying to remember how this goes. Is this the position where white can play queen b3? Let me think. I know I did it the wrong way. I was in a tournament game years ago as white, and I did something the wrong order. Let me flip the board for a second. I did something in the wrong order, and I think casting is wrong. And let's see, we'll find out why. But I don't play this line, so it's been years anymore. So it's been years since I've seen it. Let's see. Yeah, it seems to me like, as I recall, casting is wrong because now, if now it's white to play. See, queen b3 is a move you want to play, but you can't because of this. But you can play queen b3 first in this position. Now let's see, queen b3, what happens on knight a5? Oh, you have queen b5 check, or you have bishop b5 check. Well, you guys can look it up. I'm thinking, I could be wrong. I remember this game took place in 1974. I was 19 years old, and I learned the hard way. That's not, you have to do it a certain way. But suffice to say, queen b3 is not the move now. Or it might be the move the other position, but you can't do it here. Rook c1, okay, that looks reasonable. Knight b6. Okay, so going on. Looks like white's making some progress. He's using the c5 square. Chases the bishop out. Interesting. Push the pawn all the way up. Okay, now these pawns are on the same color as this bishop. They're potential targets for this bishop in the ending. If we go to that type of line, looks like the bishops are maybe coming off the board. Yep, there they go. Okay, but still, this pawn could become a target at some point to a knight. Not yet. You can't put the knight on b4. It's not safe. White does have an isolated queen pawn, so I'm liking black here. Blockade the isolated pawn. Offer a queen trade, which obliges. Oh, white has one weakness. I guess you could argue this pawn's weak too. Why can't white play rook a5? Or rook a4. That's what he does. I guess we'll find out. Now he takes the pawn, but his rook's out of play. White's a pawn up, but his rook's way out of play. But black doesn't have any entry points for his rook. See, pawn covers, knight covers. Come on, color. Pawn covers, or knight covers rather, and knight covers. So, what's it doing? Going, Arr! Looks like game over. Okay, I guess he's starting new games. Okay, well that's fine. Let's get back to the game I was looking at. Okay, you didn't want to play 1 minute. So white's a pawn ahead, but he has a nice ahead pawn. I guess white's better. So the pawn on a3 didn't quite make it. And interesting move, taking advantage of the pin. I guess white has to back his king up, but this just makes d4 a target. He's going for counterplay. And white's on 2 pawns, so he's trying to win his pawn back. And there he gets this pawn. Now this rook's active, and it's threatening a knight, it's threatening a rook. How does white lose this? Or maybe this is one that maybe the master lost this one. No, he won it. Okay, well, let's see. Now there's potential knight fork on f4. Trying to undermine the black pawns. If this pawn takes or the knight takes, d4 eventually is going to fall. But there's that knight fork, and he just slides on by. Now suddenly black has 2 very potent pawns. I can see how white went to win this. So his b4 was a little premature. But white has 2 pawns, but I think black's look more dangerous. And is forcing the king back, knight forcing the knight back. Ooh, this is getting really serious here. Probably the best white can hope to do is sack the knight for both those pawns, and hopefully win another pawn and get down to rook versus rook and knight. That might be the best white can hope for, but that just seems to back the knight up. Ooh, I think white's gonna here, see, white's gonna see a new queen come on the board, and there it is. Okay, good, well played by the master. Let me close that one and see what we have next. Okay, this game is a 1 minute game that was aborted. We don't want that. Sorry. Let's see. Neocan. Okay. You've got a very good bullet rating. Mine would, I don't think I could play bullet. I have too much lag. I would play 5 moves and lose on time. Okay. Now here's a game with spikesters. Let's back this up. Looks like this one did it in a draw. I think maybe the simul's over. There's the Joko piano again. Now I think this is one where we see the molar attack. And this is all theory. They've worked this out probably back in the time of the Civil War. And there's always, I mean, there's people that know this very very well, and I used to kind of know it, but I don't really pay attention to it because I don't play it on either side. So what do I need to bother looking at something I don't play? Maybe it might be handy to use someday, but I don't know it. So I'm thinking bishop f5 might be the move, but again, I don't know it. Now, so what's basically happened, white's gambited a pawn, and he's got some play here. Look, he's got his queen, rook, and bishop and knight all in the game, and this rook's ready to come in, and black's a little behind in development. But if played correctly, black can refute this gambit. Okay. Getting a good square for the knight. Now, slowly but surely, black's catching up in development. That's a strange move. I mean, not a bad move. I just said you normally you'd think this rook would go there if you're going to put a rook there. You know, you might want to put this rook on the e-file, although maybe with white tripled you don't want to. So we'll give him credit. Looks like white played too fast here, 63 minutes. That weakens f3, so I'm immediately trying to find some way to get that in. But there's too many defenders. 1, 2, 3. But first thing I look at, and you should too, in a person moves a pawn, what square or squares did they weaken? Well, weakened h3 and it weakened f3. If you want, you can stick a bishop here and maybe deliver a back rank mate later. Or at least consider it. Okay. Now pressure on c7. Maybe that's why black put the rook here. He's overprotecting something before it comes under attack. Yeah, see, bishop h3. See? Let's talk about that earlier. He chases it out. Now this rook might be in trouble. g5 could be a threat. So he chases the knight out and stops g5. But how do you save this rook? How do you get this rook in the game? We'll find out. Okay. Knight takes, queen takes. Now this knight can get up to c5. It's a reasonable square for it. It can also get to f3 and e4. How does white save that rook on h4? We're going to find out. Okay, there he did. Good job. Okay. Now the knight, well, now he blocks the rook's way out, but I guess he still has f4. Okay. King up. Black's still a pawn ahead, but white's got an active position. It's one of the things about this Joko piano-Muller attack. White gets a lot of activity. Now d6 is weak, c6 is weak, but black's a pawn ahead and finally getting some freedom for his rooks here. Okay, rook f4 attacks the queen. Potential shots on this queen later, although how do you get rid of that knight? The answer is you don't. It's entrenched. Good outpost for it. Okay. Now that does weaken the knight on e5 a little bit, but it takes squares away from the bishop. But black can break the pin in a number of ways. Queen a3. I'm just looking at candidate moves. You don't want to play queen g5 because rook f7 will. Well, no, you can play queen g5. Rook f7 check is met by knight takes, and the queen is guarded. So let's see. He picks queen d6. Potential lineup on the king. Maybe at some point, if the rook vacates, black may be able to play an h4 move and get at that queen. Okay. Tying the knight down to guarding f7. Rook e7 overprotects f7. Is a possible move. c5. Okay, that's good. Get the pawns rolling. These hanging pawns, but they control a lot of territory. So it's a good pawn center for black. Oh, look at that combination. Wow, that catches me by surprise. Let's see. If king takes, show me what you got. If queen, why doesn't he take with the queen? Taking with the queen seems reasonable, but I don't know. I don't think this just doesn't seem sound. He took with the king. Now if rook here, queen takes, rook takes, king takes. Here comes the queen. Now maybe the queen's getting some play. But black still has 2 rooks and a knight, and this pawn could get very dangerous. And these pawns, I think, can be restrained with the extra pieces black has. So show me what you got. Okay, rook e5, threatening this killer check. That's what I'm wondering. What about queen here? Maybe he's still going to do this. I don't know. King takes just seems a little riskier, but okay. Covers g5. Now threatening h5, so rook h8 necessary. He brings the king back. White's king. Oh, don't do this to me. Why is it doing this? There's a 3-minute game. I don't want to watch that. Let's get back to this one. Okay, knight g6. White only has a pawn for the piece, but he's got a lot of pressure. There goes, gets a second pawn for it. Black stopped the main threats. And looks like we might have a perpetual here if white takes the, no, you can take back with the knight. Somebody's sending me a Skype tell. I'll have to wait. So he takes back with the knight. Now black can get another pawn, or white can get another pawn, and he does. And this might have been where the draw offers were coming. Okay. So the only way black can win this is keep this pawn, and then he's got to trade queens and get rid of these pawns. That might be a tall order. Okay. Yeah, it's looking kind of drawish here. Only chances to keep the a pawn on the board. Well, maybe black's making some progress, but those white pawns are getting dangerous on the king side. And yeah, that seems to secure the draw. Okay, let's see. Pawn take, queen takes is forced. Pawn takes, king takes. Now what does this pawn do? Can black win this? Okay, king up. I don't think so. Yeah, black, white just ends up stalemating black more or less, except black isn't stalemated. He moves the knight back and forth, and white starts moving the king back and forth. Okay, very interesting game. Well played by both sides. Okay, so clear that game off. Now let's see. Here's an analysis board. That's the one I looked at earlier. Let me close that. Now I think he's playing a blitz game, and I'm following him still. I don't know if I can unfollow him. I'm not sure what game he's playing. I seem to be down to 2 games. Oh, this is a 3-minute game, I think. Is this a 3-minute game? Or is this a 60-minute game? You can't see the stuff on the side here. No, it's a 3-0 rated. Okay, I'm going to close that. He may get another game. Looks like there's one more game to look at. With Jake Tarallo. Let's run through this. Okay, I may get a pop-up if he plays some more blitz. Caro-Kann. Okay, Nimzovich variation of the Caro-Kann to take back this way. E-takes is another alternative. Both very interesting. One of the keys about this move is it opens up the G file for black, and it takes E5 away from white. A square white very often puts a knight on. A lot of times I think the bishop stays back for a moment, and he's starting another blitz game. Okay, I don't know what happened to my other game. I can't find it now. Hope he didn't ruin the game. Let's see. Oh, I'm going to close it and hope I didn't lose the other game. Yeah, unfortunately I lost the other game. It wiped it out. I'm sorry that I couldn't cover that last game. Jake Tarallo. Let's see. I'm on his game archive. If I refresh it, I can bring it up. Let's see. Maybe I can bring it up. It's way down here. Unfortunately, it's not going to appear in the window unless I can do some creative thinking, and I can't. I might be able to get the PGN. Let me see. I have an idea here. Yeah, the video's kind of, you can't see the whole board on the video the way the video capture is set. I'm going to try a little experiment here. Maybe I can still show this game. Okay, hang on. Copy. Yeah, I got the moves. Okay, now let's get back to live chess. Okay, now let me set up a analysis board. Hey, I think I can do this. Watch this. I'm sneaky. Okay, invite only. Okay, now the next key is I'm going to paste all those moves I got into the chat window, which you can't see, and I can read them. Hey, I got it. Okay. Except this is between the master is white and Jake Tarallo is black. Okay. So let's go over the game. E4, C6, D4, D5, knight C3, pawn takes. Knight takes, knight f6. Now he took. Now I talked about this already. C3. I think knight f3 is met by bishop g4. I know the bishop goes here a lot. Let's been years since I studied this line. I used to play it every now and then. Okay, so let's see. So c3, but bishop f5 is fine. This is perfectly okay. Knight f3, knight d7, queen e2, queen c7. Come on, move the queen. Why isn't? Oh, because I didn't get the queen to e2. That's why. It kicked it back. Huh. Silly server. Okay, queen c7. Now g3, e6. Bishop g2, castle long. Okay. Now he castles short. And here's one of the ideas of this whole thing. You know, you already have the g file. Now you're trying to pry another one open. Okay, h5. a4. White's trying for his attack. Why isn't it playing h4? Because somehow it took h5 back. Okay. Don't ask me why it's doing that. Now a4. Now black plays bishop g4. Okay. h3. Takes. h4. And he slams the file shut. g4. That says queen d5 for black. How is that possible? Oh, I'm looking at the wrong move. Okay, because I'm going to move off here. Okay, let me back this up. Castles. Let's see, 9g3, 12. Okay, yeah, I'm going to move off going back to move 10. So we have to go back to when black played e6. Okay, I missed a move here. Bishop f4. Yeah, okay, now it makes a difference. Queen a5. Okay, queen a5. Bishop g2, 000. Or castle long. O to O, castle short. Okay. Now, h5, trying for the king side attack. a4, trying for the queen side attack, planning to play b4 and move another pawn. So bishop g4. Now h3. Is that needed? I guess you just wanted to force it off. Queen takes. Now h4 and g4, shutting the file. Now queen d5. Offering a queen trade. Queen d1. Queen c4. Now here, opening up lines. Offering a pawn, but getting some activity here. Queen b4. Okay, oh, look at this sack. Ooh, that's nice. Bishop takes. Ooh, look at that. King b7, rook check. King b6. Now queen f3 with a very serious threat that black misses. The threat's rook here. He played knight b8, right square, wrong piece, and now white wins the queen. So what went wrong here for black? Well, his attack never got started. Well, it got started, but he didn't succeed in opening up any lines. How can black open up some lines here? You know, if you're going to play this line, you want to open up some lines, right? Well, one way is to play h4 now. Allow a sack and then sacrifice the exchange. That's going to open up some lines. I don't know if black has enough, but that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, let's see, when he plays h3, could always bring the bishop back to f5. Don't do this to me. It just wiped out my game. Arr! I don't want these blitz games, okay? You can play blitz all you want, but I don't want them. Back, at least I have my analysis board still. Okay. Play the bishop to f5. What black has done is created a for the sake of the tempo, black's created a weakness in white's position. Is that enough? Probably not, but it's a start. Let's see. As I was noting, white's going to be playing for b4, and this queen is in a little bit of trouble here. Might be Ooh, c4 looks deadly. Yeesh. Well, maybe not. Queen come here. Let's back c4 up. But, there's discoveries. Knight g5. That could be painful. So maybe, this queen's in danger here. Queen here. If a5, you can go to b5. And black's not going to have... Black still hasn't figured out how to create an attack here. You'd have to do... it's interesting. Those that are want to play this line, the best thing I can suggest is look on a database, look for games in this line, and just play through them. It can be done pretty quickly with a database, and find out how does black conduct an attack on the G and H files, because it's one of the selling points of playing this line. Anyway, thanks so much to Ignition on Board for playing this simul. Thanks to all that played him. That's what we're here for. And contact him. He's a good guy. He's a certified coach here at chess.com. More than willing and eager to help you. And you want to hire a title player when you can for your lessons, because we do know the ropes. That's assured that we know the material we're going to share with you, and can help you on your road to improvement. And I thank everyone for watching this, and take care. Bye now.